So, picture this. You finally inherit a kingdom, and on day one, it splits right in two. What do you do? Today, we're going to break down the seriously clever strategy of King Rehoboam, Solomon's son. He was fighting a war on two fronts, a public one everyone could see, and a private one right inside his own palace, all to hold his fractured kingdom together. All right, let's get right into it. And really, that's the million-dollar question for Rehoboam, isn't it? This was not his father Solomon's huge, unified empire, not by a long shot. What he thought was a kingdom literally torn apart. The 10 northern tribes just broke away to form Israel under his rival Jeroboam. All Rehoboam was left with was Judah and Benjamin. I mean, the stakes could not have been higher. So, Rehoboam's first move. It's a classic for a reason. You secure your borders. He kicks off this massive building project, but he's not building fancy temples or palaces. Nope. This is all about pure defense. He's basically trying to build a giant physical shield around his new, much smaller kingdom. And we're not talking about just patching up a wall in one or two towns. No way. He created a whole strategic network of fortified cities. He pinpointed key locations all over Judah and Benjamin, places like Bethlehem, Gath, and Hebron, and started beefing them up into serious military strongholds. And this went way beyond just building taller walls. The source material is super specific here. He put commanders in every single one of these cities. He stocked them with tons of food, oil, and wine, and armed them to the teeth with shields and spears. Each city basically became its own self-sufficient military base, ready to hold out during a siege. You can tell he was digging in, preparing for a long, hard fight. But here's the thing. Walls and weapons can only do so much. Rehoboam knew that a kingdom is really about its people. So, his next big strategic move wasn't about military power at all. It was about religious identity. And this, maybe surprisingly, would become his greatest strength. See, the kingdom didn't just split on the map, it had a major ideological split too. Up north, Jeroboam basically invented a whole new state religion. He kicked out the traditional Levitical priests and set up these idols of goats and calves for people to worship. So what did Rehoboam do? The exact opposite. He doubled down hard on tradition and rolled out the welcome mat for the very priests his rival had just banished. And that single decision, it kicked off a massive wave of migration. The most devout, the most skilled people in the northern kingdom, we're talking priests, Levites, and anyone loyal to the old ways, they just packed up and left. They abandoned their homes, their property, everything, and they all headed south to Jerusalem, where they could worship the way they wanted. For the north, this was a catastrophic brain drain. But for Rehoboam down south, it was a huge influx of talent and loyalty. And the effect was immediate and profound. For 3 absolutely critical years, this flow of loyal, skilled people gave Rehoboam's kingdom a massive boost. It gave him the stability he desperately needed. So he had secured his borders, and now he had secured the very heart of his nation. But there was still one more front left in this war. Okay, let's pivot to the private front, because this is where things get really wild. While Rehoboam was building up his defenses against outside threats, he was facing an equally dangerous problem from the inside, his own enormous family. A succession crisis wasn't just a possibility, it was pretty much a statistical certainty. I mean, just to get a sense of the scale of this problem, let's run the numbers. First up, he had 18 wives. Then, on top of that, add in 60 concubines, which all adds up to a staggering 88 children, and that included 28 sons. Can you just imagine the palace intrigue, the ambition, the backstabbing, the sheer potential for a civil war with that many potential heirs running around? So, faced with this internal powder keg, Rehoboam didn't just cross his fingers and hope for the best. No, he deployed a political strategy that was every bit as shrewd and calculated as his military one. First thing he did was name an official heir. He picked Abijah, who was the son of his favorite wife, Maacah, and made him the crown prince. Just that one move eliminated a huge amount of the guesswork and drew a clear, undeniable line of succession. Great question though, right? Naming one heir is smart, but what are you going to do about the other 27 ambitious sons who probably feel like they have a claim to the throne? Well, this is where Rehoboam's genius really kicks into high gear. He came up with this brilliant 3-step plan. First, he scattered his sons. He sent them away from the capital, out to the edges, and put them in charge of those fortified cities he built. Second, He kept them happy. He gave them tons of provisions. Basically, he made them too rich and comfortable to want to start a rebellion. And third, he secured their futures by arranging a whole bunch of marriages for them, creating even more alliances. It's amazing. He didn't just neutralize his potential rivals, he turned them into loyal managers for his kingdom. You know, the source text itself just comes right out and says it. He acted wisely. And you can see why. This wasn't just a string of lucky breaks. It was a careful, deliberate, two-front strategy to make his kingdom safe from threats outside his borders and from right inside his own family. He cemented his power with stone, with faith, and with some incredibly savvy family politics. And all of this leaves us with a question that's just as relevant today. Rehoboam's actions were, without a doubt, effective. But they also show a deep, almost obsessive need for control, an understanding of every potential threat. So it really makes you wonder, for any leader, back then or right now, where exactly is the line between wise foresight and just plain paranoia?